Why play Hwei Mid? Well, he brings tons of burst damage. He also brings a good amount of CC, as well as bringing tons of other utility, and he really is just a jack of all trades. However, he does lack mobility outside of a small speed up, and he is much weaker in the early game before items. Hwei's passive is his damaging abilities mark enemies hit for 4 seconds. If you then damage them with a different ability, it then consumes the mark to create an explosion underneath them, dealing damage. Instead of having 3 normal abilities, Hwei has 9 abilities. When he presses Q, W, or E, he gets 3 new options, and regardless of which spell he chooses to use, it puts the entire Q, W, or E on cooldown. And if he decides to not use an ability after pressing the first button, he can then press his ultimate to cancel it. Hwei's QQ is a straight line skill shot which explodes in a circle at the end, dealing damage to all enemies hit. Hwei's QW has incredibly long range and creates a small circle at a location, and after 1 second, enemies within take damage. Isolated or immobilized enemies take bonus damage. And his QE is a straight line skill shot which creates a path on the floor. After a short amount of time, this will create shockwaves dealing damage to nearby enemies, before staying on the floor for a short amount of time, dealing damage and slowing enemies hit. Hwei's WQ creates a path on the floor which grants him and allies bonus movement speed while on it. Hwei's WW places a circle on the floor which applies a growing shield to you and your allies. Hwei's WE causes his next 3 attacks or abilities to deal bonus damage and restore mana. Think of Nami E, but better. Hwei's EQ is a straight line skill shot which deals damage to and fears the first enemy hit. Hwei's EW creates a large circle on the floor which grants sight of the area. Upon seeing an enemy champion, it will lock onto them, dealing damage to the first enemy it collides with and rooting them. And Hwei's EE places this jaw-like skill shot on the floor, which after a short amount of time will chomp, dealing magic damage and slowing enemies hit. Enemies not within the center of the ability are then pulled there. Hwei's ultimate is a straight line skill shot which stops on the first enemy champion hit. It creates a growing circle around them and enemies within take damage and are increasingly slowed. After 3 seconds it explodes, dealing magic damage. With 10 abilities, Hwei has an insane amount of combos, however here's some easy ones to get you started. WE into EE into QQ is a quick large burst of damage. When pushing waves, WE into a QE is a great go-to. When being ganked, an EQ into a WQ is a great way to escape. And a great teamfight combo to use is to use WE into your ult, followed up with an EW into a QQ for massive AoE damage, slows and roots. For matchups, Hwei is great into short range mages who he can push in all game, and he can struggle into mobile assassins. For runes take this, Comet is great. For build order, start Ring and Pot into Ludens and tier 2 boots. After this, a Shadow Flame and Hat are great pickups before finishing a build with any of these as needed. For skill order, start Q then W then E before maxing Q then E then W, taking ult whenever you can. For summoner spells, take Flash and Teleport, all of these work too. Starting the game, you want to safely farm to scale while poking your opponent and landing trades. Your WE into QE pushes waves incredibly fast and safely. And if you can hit your opponent with this and then follow up with an auto attack, it will deal tons of damage and proc your passive. When they're not behind minions, bully them with QQ, and when they are behind minions, use QW. And when you hit level 6, it's such a massive power spike, look to land your full combo on your opponent. When team fighting, you are an absolute beast. Your full combo deals ridiculous amounts of AoE damage and utility, so keep yourself safe and throw out your massive burst damage. After this, either keep throwing out damage, or use your fear, shield, or speed up to keep yourself safe.